Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's your old pal, Mr. Greg here, broadcasting to you from Mr. Greg's top secret auxiliary undisclosed broadcasting location with this week's video. Please pardon my disguise, but have you ever been told that you look like somebody else? Well, Mr. Greg has been getting that a lot lately. In fact, one would say far too often for it to be just a coincidence. And with Mr. Greg Saves the World from the CIA still unreleased in theaters, these recent sightings of lookalikes have become somewhat of a concern. And the only possible rational explanation is that Mr. Greg has been cloned. Now, Mr. Greg is quite aware of a small faction of people out there that think that Mr. Greg is crazy, but please do follow along. You see, when the average person thinks of cloning, they are thinking of traditional or biological cloning, whereas DNA is manipulated in an embryonic stage to produce a being with the exact same DNA. This process, however, would take years or even decades to make a clone of Mr. Greg. But there are actually two types of cloning. Synthetic cloning is very different, being that synthetic clones don't require a growth cycle and, well, aren't even really alive. They are essentially 3D printed androids. But the problem, though, is that many imperfections that are normally avoided in biological cloning tend to be more prevalent in synthetic cloning, which is why Mr. Greg has been being told that he looks like someone else and not exactly the same. For instance, this is a clone of Mr. Greg playing a guitar. And this one, while also almost being as dashingly handsome as Mr. Greg, appears to be singing in a death metal band. This one has its nose ring on the left side. Everybody knows Mr. Greg's nose ring is on the right side. This one appears to have been disproportionately constructed. And finally, there's this one, whose muscles are just too wimpy. So there you have it, folks, indisputable evidence that Mr. Greg has in fact been cloned. And while Mr. Greg digs deeper in search of answers, he would like to take this moment to remind his younger audiences to protect their DNA. Mr. Greg, out. This week's song is Stone Temple Pilots' Big Empty. We're going to get to the chords and the strumming, but like all other videos, we're going to check your guys' tuning first. You'll recall from all other videos that the G string 2nd fret produces the same A note as your open A string, that the E string 5th fret produces that same A note, and that the C string 4th fret produces the same E note as your open E. If that sounds good, skip ahead, otherwise this is how your G should sound. Your C, your E, and your A. Okay, this song uses a handful of chords, but they're all pretty simple, so I'll explain them now. Your first chord is your E minor, and your second chord is a C add 9. And the way I want us to think about that as a C is your finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, your C add 9 is at the 5th fret. And in this song goes C add 9 and then C, okay? Then you have a C7, for those of you that are new to the C7 is that same term or methodology, but instead of your C being to the 3rd fret, we're going to move our finger down to the 1st fret. And that makes a C7. Then we have a G. We have an A7, which is essentially it's an A chord, but without your second finger. You have an F, and then this one might be new to you. It's an E7, okay? And following the E7, we have the E7 sus4, and all that is it's an E7, but you lift the 3rd finger up. Okay? The strumming for this is down, 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 up, down, down, but with a couple of exceptions. So what I mean by that is if we take the E minor in the verse, that's down, 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 up, down, down. Okay? Now, when we split the measures, meaning the chords in the bracket, if we look on that same first line of the verse, the C add 9 is going to get down, down, and then the C is going to get the up, down, down, down. Okay? Following that, the C7 that ends the verses, that's going to be a measure of 8th notes. So that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and plus a single whole note of C7 when we jump to the chorus. We're going to go down the page, and when we get to the first refrain, we're going to do a build on that E7 sus4 going to the chorus, and that's just going to be 2 measures of eighth notes on the E7 sus4. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we jump back to the chorus. And that's pretty much the tune, guys. So let's go ahead and give it a shot, right? All right, Stone Temple Pilots' Big Empty. Here we go. Driving faster in my car, falling farther from just what we are. Smoke a cigarette and lie some more. This conversation's kill. Falling faster in my car. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to take a ride. It leaves today. No conversation. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to wait too long. To wait too long. To wait too long. Too much walking, shoes won't thin. Too much tripping, and my soles won't bend. Time to catch a ride, it leaves today's name is what it means. Too much walking, shoes won't thin. Time to take her home, her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to take a ride, it leaves today no conversation. Time to take her home, her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to wait too long, to wait too long, wait too long. Conversations kill. Conversations kill. Conversations kill. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to take a ride. It leaves today no conversation. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to wait too long. To wait too long. Wait too long. Conversations kill. Conversations kill. Conversations kill. All right, you guys, there you go. Stone Temple Pilots' Big Empty. See you next week.